Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever and whenever you are. My name is Benjamin, and welcome to another GameMaker tutorial. Now, in this tutorial, we are going to be doing a heart-like system similar to those found in Zelda for the character's health. Now, I'm going to run a separate project that I have over here just to show you guys what we're going to be making. You can see I've got a little window. It's drawing hearts across. You can see there are little gray spaces for these hearts that are not filled. I can press the up arrow key to add to the health and then the down arrow key to subtract from the health. That's just an example to show how it works. Obviously, I can't go lower than 0 or higher than 6, which is the current max health set on this system. Now, this system is set up to work with views as well. It's drawn on the GUI layer or the GUI layer, depending on how you like to pronounce it. And because of that, it will follow the room or follow the view around in the room. Now I'm going to do something a little bit different in this video because I want to teach you guys some of the basics and make sure you understand them. So in this video, not only am I going to be showing you how to do this great heart system like in Zelda that you can add to your game, but I'm also going to be teaching you about for loops. So if that's something new to you or you don't feel like you understand those very well, then this is a great video for you because you get 2 for the price of 1. So let's jump right in. I've got a game here, GameMaker Studio project, and I just have this heart sprite. And you can see this is 16 by 16. Simple little heart sprite. If you want to create your own heart sprite, you can pause the video right here, maybe even copy mine. It's pretty easy to copy this many pixels, so you could copy it if you wanted to. And I just have the origin at 0, 0. Doesn't really matter. So now we're going to create an object. Come up here to create a new object, and we're going to name this object stats. Okay? And we're going to there's a couple things we're going to do. First of all, if you want this object to, if you want the player's health to stay the same no matter what room he's in, you're going to want to make this object persistent. So click persistent, and then you're going to want to only leave this object in the very first room, so that it doesn't reinitialize your variables in each new room. So just place it in the first room. Because it's persistent, it will automatically be in every room automatically. So we're going to initialize the stats. And this is pretty simple. Let me drag this over here to make sure you guys can see it. We're going to do HP equals 3. And we're going to do max HP equals, let's do 5. Actually, max HP equals 5. Okay, we're looking good. Let's assign a sprite. Let's make it the heart, just so we can see when we put it in the room where it is. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add a new room, and we're going to call this room test. And I'm going to make this room 320 by 180, which is a tiny room, but that's okay. We're going to give it a view, so go to the Views tab. And we're going to click Enable the use of views and visible when room starts. And then we're going to go to the Objects tab, and we're going to place our heart object in the room. Now where we place this is important because that's where it will draw, and I'll show you how we can do that. But first, what we need to do is we need to make sure. So interesting thing about GameMaker, we'll actually go back into the room. With our view, you can see we've got a huge view. That doesn't make sense because our room isn't even that big. So we're going to set our view to the same size as our room, 320 by 180. But we're going to set the port on the screen to 640 by 360, which is double the size of our actual view. And what that's going to do is this tiny little room right here is going to be scaled up, doubled. And let's run the game real quick and see what happens. There you go. You can see it scaled up the room. So even though it's only drawing 320 pixels, it scaled it across 640 pixels wide. So that's what the port is. The port is basically how big the window is inside of Windows. So, and the width and height of the view is how big the view is in your room. So one of them's the size of the view in your room. The other one's the size of your window or the game window. That's the port. Now, let's come into this little button right here because I want to turn off interpolate colors between pixels. If you were looking close, you might have noticed that the heart looked kind of strange. And now it looks nice and crisp with those pixels. Before it looked kind of blurred and ugly. So that's looking good so far. If I can close it, there we go. Let's go really quickly. Let's just set the background color. I'm going to make it just a darker gray. That's all. Okay. Now, there's a reason I was telling you about the port, and the reason is because, well, I'll show you in just a minute. Let's jump right into the for loop. Then we can explain more about the viewport in just a second. So we want to use the draw GUI event. So go add event, draw GUI. And the reason is because if we have a game and our character's moving around in the game and the view is following that character, we want the heart stats to follow the view. And if you draw your heart stats onto the GUI layer, it will automatically follow the view. It handles all the math for you and it makes it really nice. So that's what we're going to do. We've got draw GUI here. And this will make it follow the view, make the hearts follow the view. So let's draw the hearts. First thing we're going to do is we're going to create an offset, which is going to be the width between each heart. Now our hearts are 16 pixels wide, so a good offset would be 20 or 24 pixels, because that will separate them by, either about 4 or 8 pixels. So I'm going to do 24. We're going to do var x offset equals 24, and that will be the distance between each heart. And now we're going to draw the hearts using a for loop. Use a for loop. Now, for loops can be really confusing at first, especially if you've never seen one. So I'm going to create one, and then we're going to kind of mess around with it. So just trust me on this and step through it with me. So we're going to do for I equals, I equals 0. I do like that space there. Actually, we need to create a variable. So we're going to do var I equals 0. There we go. For var I equals 0, I is less than 1, I plus plus. Then we're going to do curly brackets, and the other curly brackets, might as well do them right at the start so that we've got them paired. Hit enter twice, go up one, and then tab over. That's going to bring us inside of our for loop. So we've got the for loop right here. We initialize a variable and set it to 0. Now I just chose I because that's generally what's used in programming. It could be anything. You could put this as, whatever you wanted, but that would be hard to remember. Most people use I because that's easiest to remember. We set it to 0. And we have this condition right here where we check to see if it's less than 1. And then we have this place at the end where we add to it. I plus plus just adds 1 onto I. Now what we're going to do inside of here is we're going to draw the heart. So draw sprite heart. Okay. The sub image we need to pass in is 0 because we only have one image anyway, so we can just do 0. Our X position. Now we're going to use the position of our object when it's very first put in the room, and that is called X start. And what that does is it means wherever we put the object in the room, in the very first room, that's where this is going to be drawn on the view in the port or on the GUI layer. So we're going to use that, and then we're going to add to that because we need to add a little bit to that depending on which heart we're drawing, because we're going to be drawing all the hearts. So if we're drawing the first heart, we're probably going to add 0 to it. But if we're drawing the second heart, we're going to add our offset to it, which is 24. If we're drawing the next heart, we're going to add 48, and so on, so that it gets further and draws each heart. we're going to add, and this is the tricky part, x offset times I. And that's the trickiest part of this. Now we're going to put a comma there, and we're going to do y start for the y. And we don't need to add to it at all. Okay? Now let's look at this for a second and figure out what's going on here, because if you've never seen a for loop before, this is going to be really confusing. So what we're doing is we're setting I to 0. And then what happens is we get a condition check. Well, then it actually runs the code. So it comes in here and it draws the sprite. Where does it draw that sprite? Well, it draws it at x start, which our object right now is at position 32. You can see that because we've got it snapped to 32. So our x position is 32 and our y position is 32. So this is 32 and this is 32 because that's where we put it in the room. But we're adding the x offset times I. Well, the x offset is 24. So that's 24 times I. But what's I? Well, I is 0. Right? I is 0. So 24 times 0 is 0. And then we get 0 added to our x start. So where is it going to draw the first heart? Well, it's going to draw the first heart right here at position 32, 32. Right? Because it's 32 and 32. And then what's it going to do? It's going to come back up here again and it's going to check. Is I less than 1? And I is going to be 0. So, yeah, it's less than 1. So, well, actually, first it's going to add. So, it's going to add to it, and it's going to become 1. And then it's going to say, is I less than 1? And the answer is no, because now it's 1. So it's only going to run this one time. And that's because we have 1 here. So let's run it and see what happens. And a couple things that I want to talk about as well. So it draws the heart, but it draws it really tiny. And then you can see our current object in there too. So what we actually want to do is we actually need to override the draw event so that our stats object doesn't draw the heart there. So I'm just going to create a draw event, a normal draw event, drag over some code. And we're going to override the draw event. There. So just putting a comment here with nothing else, that's going to cancel our draw event. So let's run it again so it's less confusing. You can see it draws the heart really small. Now why is that? Well, we're scaling the view, right? Because our view is only 320 pixels wide, but we're drawing it on a room of 640 pixels. This window right here is 640 pixels wide. The GUI layer, or the GUI layer, by default is the size of the port, which our port, if you remember, is 640. So when it draws the heart on a port on a size of 640, the heart's going to look smaller. But we can change that so that it doesn't set the GUI layer to that size, because normally we want the GUI layer or the GUI layer to be the size of the actual view. So we're going to do display, set the size of the GUI layer. Display set size, or GUI size. We're going to call it, or we're going to set it to width, or view WView 0, which means the width of the current view that we're in, because we set view 0, view HView 0. So that's going to set it to the width and the height of our current view. So now when we run the game, what are we going to see? Well, it's drawing it the right size now. It's not drawing it tiny. That's looking good. Let's come back into the draw GUI event. And we're only drawing 1. Well, we want to draw more than 1, right? We want to draw, well, let's say we want to draw 3, because that's what our health is at. So we'll put 3 there, and we'll draw the 3. And there, it draws 3 hearts. They're separated by 24 pixels each, and they're each 16 pixels wide. And it's drawing them right where our object is in the room. It starts there. Let's set our snap to 16 by 16 and move this up so it's kind of closer up there. It'll look a little bit better there. Now, come back into your draw event. Oops, sorry, the draw GUI event. Now let's think about why it works and why it draws the 3. So the first time we come in and we draw the heart, I is equal to 0, right? I is equal to 0. It draws the heart. It draws it at 16 because we moved our heart to 16 by 16. So it draws it at position 16 plus 0 times the offset, which is 0, and we get, right, 0 plus the starting position is just the starting position, so we draw it at 16 and 16. Then we come up here, we add to I. Now I is equal to 1, right? Is I less than 3? Yeah, 1 is still less than 3, so let's draw again. So we come down in here, we draw again, only this time our x position, our x start is 16, but we're adding the offset times I, but I is equal to 1. So I times 24, or 1 times 24 is going to be 24. So now our starting position is 16, but we're adding 24 more pixels. So this is our second heart, and we're drawing it 24 pixels over more. Now it's going to add to I again. I is going to be equal to 2. Is 2 less than 3? Yes. So it comes back down in and draws the heart again. Only this time, we're doing it x start plus x offset times 2. Now, the x offset is 24, so if we multiply that by 2, it's 48. So this is 16 plus 48. It's going to draw the third heart 1 more over. And that's how this works. That's how you can draw them because you're multiplying your offset by the I, which just starts at 0 and then goes to 1 and then 2 and then 3. Or technically in this case, it hits 3, but we don't draw it again because it's not less than 3 anymore. So then we can see that it's drawing them each in their own place because of that. Now that's pretty nice, but this right here, we can't have this number right here. That's not going to work because even though it makes a little heart, I didn't think about that. But it's not going to work because what if our health is 2? It's still going to draw 3 hearts. Well, what you can do in this case is you just do I is less than HP. Now, whatever our health is, it will draw that many hearts for it. And let's run this, and we won't see much of a change because our health is already set to 3, right? So yeah, that didn't change at all. But let's add a step event to our object. And add or subtract from the health. Okay. If keyboard check pressed VK up, if keyboard check pressed, no, that's released, pressed VK down. Okay, we're going to add and subtract from our health, and I'm just using the up arrow key and the down arrow key. This checks to see if they press the up arrow key, see if they press the down arrow key. If they press the up arrow key, we're going to do HP plus plus. Now we saw in the for loop that when you do the plus plus, it just adds 1. So if we do this, that's going to add 1 to HP. You can also do minus minus, HP minus minus, and that's going to subtract from it. Now, let's add a few more comments here, just so that's apparent. Add, subtract. Now the last one, we want to make sure that our, well, we can do that in a second. If you want to, you can just hit F5 and it's going to run our game, but it's going to leave that code window open, which is useful because we're going to need that. Now we can add and subtract from the health, but you can see that we can go forever. And that's not very good. So we want to be able to prevent our health from going less than 0 and greater than our maximum health. Now there's a function in GameMaker called clamp that's really useful for this. So we can do HP equals clamp, and you pass in the value, which is HP, the minimum, which would be 0 because we don't want to go less than 0, and the maximum, which is going to be max HP, which we created that variable. Now, make sure HP doesn't leave range. This clamps our hit points to this specific range, and it's really quite useful because it saves a lot of if statements and stuff. So now that we've got that done, we're looking pretty good. If we come into our game and run it, we can add to the hit points until we hit the max HP. We can subtract from the hit points till we hit 0, and we can't go less than 0. It just stays there. So you're looking really good. You've written your first for loop, and you've got a basic heart system. But now what I want to do is I want to challenge you. This is going to be a little mini challenge, and this is something I want to try doing in my videos more often, starting now, is I want to challenge you to draw the hearts in the background using a for loop just like this. Draw the hearts that will be behind these ones. And just as a little tip, you should know that whatever's drawn first in here is going to be on bottom there. So you actually want to draw them before. So you would do draw gray hearts for max HP. Now I'm going to challenge you to do that. Create your own for loop right here and set it up. Pause the video right now and do that. Create your own for loop to draw the gray hearts. Okay, welcome back. Now I'm going to show you how to do it. Hopefully you paused it and tried it on your own, because that's going to be good for you to learn and understand how this works, how the for loop works. Doing it for yourself is really important. But just in case you had struggles, I'm here. I'm going to show you how we can do that. So I'm just going to write it again. I'm not going to copy and paste it. We're going to do for var I equals 0. So we're doing another I. I is less than max HP. I want to do max HP here. I plus plus. Because we want to draw all of the hearts for the maximum hit points. Now we're going to do draw sprite. And we're going to use draw sprite ext. And the reason you could actually create, if you did it by creating your own other sprite that was actually gray, like creating another heart that was sprite gray heart, you could do that too. That works just fine. But I'm going to use draw sprite ext because we can use the same exact sprite. And then we're going to pass in our sprite heart, and the sub image is 0. Now the X position is going to be just like our other one. X start plus X offset times I. And then we're going to do Y start. Okay. And let me make sure we've got a little bit more room here so you can see. The X scale is just going to be 1. The Y scale is just going to be 1. That's the default scaling. Rotation is going to be 0. That's the default rotation. The color is going to be C black. And then the alpha is going to be 0.3. And that's going to make, it's going to draw the heart with a black color so that the entire heart's going to be black, but with an alpha value, which is a transparency value of 3. And that's how you'll do it. Now we can press play right here. And you can see we've got a nice little gray heart to show where the hearts can be, and what our health is, and what our maximum health is, so we can see that difference there. So great job. You learned about for loops. You learned a little bit about the GUI layer, or the GUI layer. This is actually going to be a prerequisite video for one that I want to show you guys, and I closed out of it, but I've got a series that I'm going to do. It's going to be a shorter series that talks about random level generation and how you can do collisions inside of a DS grid, which is just a data structure. So I'm kind of prepping you guys for this. This is actually a prerequisite for that. mini course that I'm going to be doing. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure and like it, favorite it, share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter. Twitter's my favorite. I can see that. When you share it on Twitter, I see that, and I really appreciate it when you guys do that. Post your comments in this section below. Did you like the mini challenge? Do you want to see more of those? Do you like how this video is structured? Showing a programming technique combined with something that you would actually use in a game. If you like that, then please tell me about it, because I'm still learning and trying to teach you guys, trying to improve the quality of my content. So if you're interested, I also have my Udemy course and my GameMaker book. There are links for those in the description, so be sure and check those out. Those are my premium content, but if you like free content, then just stay here on YouTube, because I'm going to always do free YouTube videos here. So thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you guys later.